The story began on a crisp Tuesday morning at 9:30 a.m., when an elegant black woman walked into Pinnacle Trust's downtown branch. She wore a modest blazer and jeans, her natural hair in a neat bun, carrying a well-worn but not designer purse. To anyone watching, she looked like an ordinary middle-class customer. But this was Elise Carter, the first black woman to lead Pinnacle Trust, a top-tier national bank. None of the staff recognized her. 20 years ago, Elise stood behind a similar counter, a teller trainee in a starched uniform, her name tag gleaming. Her journey from that humble start to the C-suite was nothing short of extraordinary. Elise didn't come from privilege or elite networks. What she had was raw determination, a razor-sharp mind, and a work ethic that propelled her through the ranks. From teller to loan officer, branch manager to regional VP, she crushed every role. She earned her MBA from Stanford, led record-breaking quarters, and became known as the turnaround queen who could revive failing branches. 5 years ago, she became chief operating officer, and many thought that was her peak. They were wrong. 3 months ago, when Pinnacle's CEO retired, the board faced a choice. Despite Elise's stellar record, some members hesitated, whispering in closed-door meetings about whether clients would accept a black woman as the face of the bank. After a heated vote, Elise Carter became CEO. Her acceptance speech was firm. "I will ensure every customer, employee, and community we serve is treated with dignity and fairness, no exceptions." Those weren't just words. Behind the scenes, Elise had been digging into troubling data. While Pinnacle's overall customer satisfaction scores shone, a deeper look revealed stark disparities. Customers of color were leaving at alarming rates, citing poor service and feeling unwelcome. Formal complaints were rare. Most just took their business elsewhere. Elise knew reports and surveys weren't enough. To see the unfiltered truth, she went undercover, inspired by her belief that real change starts with real experience. The downtown branch, managed by Karen Mitchell, a 15-year veteran with a polished resume, was her first stop. On paper, Karen's branch was a star. High transaction volumes, strong account growth, low complaint rates. But Elise's data dives showed a pattern. Minority customers were quietly exiting, their exit interviews hinting at bias. Karen's branch had the highest account rejection rates for Black and Hispanic applicants, and the lowest loan approvals for minority businesses. Something was rotten, and Elise was here to expose it. She took a seat in the lobby, pretending to check her phone but quietly observing. In those first 20 minutes, the truth unfolded clearer than any report. A white businessman in a tailored suit entered and was greeted with smiles, escorted to a private desk before he could even join the line. "Good morning, sir. How can we assist you today?" the staff chirped. His $150,000 withdrawal was processed in under 5 minutes. An elderly Asian couple, however, was directed to take a number and wait. No warmth offered. A young white woman in yoga clothes chatted with a teller about her weekend while her transaction flew through. Then, a Hispanic man in work boots approached the same counter. Suddenly, there were extra questions, demands for multiple IDs, and a skeptical glance that stretched his simple check cashing into 12 minutes. Elise watched this pattern repeat 7 times before she approached the counter herself. By then, she'd waited 40 minutes, despite the branch being only moderately busy. 3 white customers who arrived after her were already served. At Teller Lucy's window, Elise slid her ID and withdrawal slip for $200,000. Lucy's smile faltered. "This is a large amount," she said, her voice rising just enough to draw Jason's attention next door. She studied Elise's driver's license, then her face, then the license again, as if they couldn't match. It's well within my account's daily limit, Elise said calmly. Lucy didn't reply. Instead, she whispered to Jason, who nodded and stepped over, looming behind the counter. Is there a problem here? He asked loudly, not to Lucy but to Elise. Heads turned. Customers stared. An older white woman clutched her purse tighter, assuming Elise was trouble. Elise felt every eye in the room, the silent judgment that she didn't belong. With unshakable composure, she placed her bank card beside her ID. No problem. I'm making a withdrawal. Please process it. Jason picked up her ID, studying it with theatrical scrutiny. We've seen suspicious activity on accounts like these, he said, emphasizing these just enough to imply something unsavory. What kind of accounts? Elise asked, her voice steady. Jason ignored her, turning to Lucy. Pull up the account history. Let's check the transaction patterns. As Lucy typed, another staff member, Richard, drifted over, his name tag glinting. He leaned in, whispering loud enough for Elise to hear. Probably one of those cash-flipping scams. His smirk was blatant as he sized up Elise's modest clothes. We just need to make sure the funds are really yours, he said with fake sweetness. For your protection, of course. The humiliation was deliberate, a coordinated effort to shame her. Yet Elise stood tall, her voice unwavering. I've provided my ID and card. I've been a customer for years. Complete my transaction now. That's when Richard called Karen Mitchell. She strode across the lobby, her heels clicking with the confidence of someone untouchable. Her expression was a mask of concern, but her eyes betrayed disdain. Ma'am, I understand there's confusion about your request, she said, her tone dripping with condescension. She didn't ask Elise's name or introduce herself, assuming instant authority. No confusion, Elise replied. I'm accessing my money. Karen's smile didn't reach her eyes. $200,000 is a significant sum. May I ask what it's for? The question, never asked of the white businessman earlier, hung heavily. She didn't ask Elise's name or introduce herself, assuming instant authority. No confusion, Elise replied. I'm accessing my money. Karen's smile didn't reach her eyes. $200,000 is a significant sum. May I ask what it's for? The question, never asked of the white businessman earlier, hung heavily. There it was. The mask slipped. Karen's words weren't about policy. They were about prejudice, thinly veiled in corporate jargon. Elise felt the familiar pang of being reduced to a stereotype, but her face showed no rage, only resolve. Behind Karen, the staff exchanged glances. Lucy fidgeted with a stack of forms, her discomfort clear but her silence damning. Jason and Richard didn't hide their amusement, Jason stifling a laugh. A white mother with 2 kids at the next window pulled them closer, whispering something that made them stare at Elise. The assumption of wrongdoing was contagious. Elise took a deep breath, her composure a fortress. I'd like to speak to someone with the authority to override your concerns, she said, each word measured. Karen's smile tightened, a flash of anger in her eyes. I'm the highest authority here, ma'am. There's no one else. She leaned in, her voice a stage whisper. Perhaps a check-cashing place down the street would be more suited to your needs. They handle smaller amounts, maybe $1,000 or $2,000. The dismissal was so blatant, the lobby collectively inhaled. Mrs. Thompson, the elderly black woman, shook her head, muttering, "Same old story." Carlos, the Hispanic man, looked away, his own delayed transaction a mirror of Elise's. Without a word, Elise reached into her purse, a modest leather bag, a gift from her team when she became COO, and pulled out her phone. "Excuse me," she said, stepping slightly aside but staying in view. She dialed, her voice professional. "Marcus, it's Elise. I'm at the downtown branch. They've refused my transaction." "I need you now." Jason nudged Richard, both smirking. "Oh, she's got connections," Jason mocked. Karen rolled her eyes, assuming a bluff. An older black man in a delivery uniform watched with a resigned look. This was just another Tuesday. The bank's mission statement loomed on the wall, serving all with trust, respect, and integrity. The irony was painful. Karen stepped forward, her patience gone. "You're creating a disturbance. Conclude your business elsewhere. Smaller banks might serve you better." The lie was staggering. The only disturbance was their treatment of a legitimate customer. Elise continued her call, unfazed. "Yes, downtown branch. They've refused service. That's correct." Her calm unnerved Karen, who expected anger or retreat. Instead, Elise's composed resistance was a third path, and it rattled her. "Ma'am," Karen's voice rose, cracking. "If you don't leave, I'll call security." Elise turned slightly, still on the phone. The wall clock ticked loudly. 10:02 a.m., a moment that would soon be etched in termination letters. Karen signaled Jason, who reached for the security extension. The situation teetered on chaos. Other staff stopped working, watching the drama unfold. That's when Elise spoke her final words into the phone, words that shifted everything. "Marcus, bring Victoria and Robert, now." The names hit Karen like a jolt. Marcus Reed, head of security, Victoria Chen and Robert Lawson, board members. Elise knew them, had their direct lines. Doubt flickered across Karen's face, but her arrogance surged back. "Probably name-dropping," she muttered, convincing herself. "People like her always try to intimidate." Hit subscribe if you're rooting for Elise to turn this around. At Pinnacle Trust's headquarters, the 30th floor erupted. Marcus Reed, a former Marine with a no-nonsense edge, stood bolt upright at Elise's call. "Get every camera feed from downtown," he barked. "Customer complaints, staff records, everything." His assistant scrambled, pulling up branch analytics. The downtown branch's numbers were stellar, but filters revealed the truth. High rejection rates for minority applicants, low loan approvals for black businesses, triple the attrition rate for customers of color. Marcus grabbed his tablet and security badge, his heels echoing as he rushed to the executive elevator. In the boardroom, Victoria Chen and Robert Lawson, reviewing quarterly reports, were interrupted as security feeds lit up the screens. "What's happening?" Robert asked. The head of security's face was grim. "You need to see this. On the screens." Elise faced Karen's scorn. "This branch serves a specific clientele." Karen's voice crackled through the audio, her condescension undeniable. Victoria's jaw tightened. "That's Elise Carter," she stammered. "Our CEO." Robert's face paled. "This has been going on for 17 minutes?" The board watched, stunned, as their leader was humiliated. "Record everything," Robert ordered, his voice tight. "Get legal up here." Back in the lobby, Karen's confidence waned as she sensed a shift. The staff's smirks faded. Lucy's hands trembled. Elise stood still, phone back in her purse, watching Karen's facade crack. The security cameras, meant to protect the bank, were now exposing its internal rot. Every smirk, every slight, every double standard preserved in high definition. The elevator chimed. The lobby doors burst open with a thunderclap, slamming against the walls. Marcus Reed strode in, flanked by Victoria Chen and Robert Lawson. The room froze. Karen's eyes widened, recognizing Marcus. In her 15 years, he'd visited maybe twice, always planned. His fury, Victoria's steely gaze, and Robert's grim expression signaled disaster. The staff scattered, Richard's smirk gone, Jason's arms dropping. Lucy looked faint. Karen tried to regain control, smoothing her hair. "Mr. Reed, what a surprise, is there—" Marcus cut her off, pointing at Elise. "Do you know who this is?" Karen glanced at Elise, then back, confusion morphing into dread. Was she a regulator? A VIP client? The board's presence made no sense. Customers stopped pretending to bank, some recording, Mrs. Thompson nodding as if justice was near. Tyler, the security guard, stepped back, distancing himself from Karen. Marcus's voice boomed. "This is Elise Carter, CEO of Pinnacle Trust. Your boss." The words landed like grenades. Karen staggered, her face ashen. Jason's mouth fell open. Lucy gasped, tears welling. Richard clutched the counter, horrified. 3 months ago, Karen had watched Elise's CEO announcement on a live stream, clapping politely with her team. She'd forgotten, or chosen not to see, the face of her leader. "We've been watching," Marcus said, holding up his tablet. Security footage played. A white customer's large withdrawal processed with smiles. A Hispanic customer's identical request met with suspicion. Every interaction is recorded. What we've seen is discrimination so blatant it violates company policy and federal law, Karen stammered, her composure gone. "This is a misunderstanding. We have security concerns." Victoria cut in, her voice ice. "We saw 3 similar withdrawals today for white customers. No concerns there. The only protocol you followed was bias." Richard stepped forward, desperate. "I was just following Karen's lead. We're trained to be cautious." His voice cracked, the bravado gone. Jason tried a different tack, his tone falsely professional. "There have been fraud schemes targeting this branch. We were just being thorough." Marcus shut him down, his eyes narrowing. "We have every email, every memo, every communication you've sent. Don't make this worse by lying." The board members' presence, Victoria Chen and Robert Lawson standing like sentinels, elevated the moment to unprecedented. Board members didn't descend to the front lines unless the stakes were catastrophic. The lobby, already silent, seemed to hold its breath. Customers watched, wide-eyed, phones out, capturing the reckoning. Mrs. Thompson's nod grew firmer, her eyes gleaming with quiet vindication. Carlos, the Hispanic man, stood taller, his own humiliation now part of this larger story. Elise Carter, who had remained silent through the storm, finally spoke. Her voice was calm, measured, carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Karen Mitchell, Jason Reed, Richard Hayes," she said, locking eyes with each in turn. "You are terminated, effective immediately." No raised voice, no theatrics, just the undeniable exercise of power by someone who had earned it through decades of excellence. Karen's face contorted, shock mixing with humiliated rage. "You can't just—" she began, but Elise raised a hand, and Karen fell silent, the gesture commanding obedience. "I can, and I have," Elise said simply. "Your actions violate Pinnacle Trust's values and federal banking laws. You have no place here." She nodded to Tyler, the security guard, who had watched the scene with growing unease. "Tyler, please escort these former employees to collect their belongings and off the premises." Tyler straightened, his hesitation gone, nodding with purpose. "Yes, ma'am." As he led Karen, Jason, and Richard toward the back offices, the lobby remained frozen, the weight of accountability settling over everyone. There was no cheering, no outburst, just a solemn witnessing of justice served. Lucy, the young teller who had first handled Elise's request, stood trembling behind her counter, tears streaming down her face, expecting her own termination. Elise approached her, and Lucy braced herself, head bowed. But instead of a dismissal, Elise spoke softly, her words inaudible to most, but transformative for Lucy. Her expression shifted from terror to confusion, then cautious relief. She nodded repeatedly, wiping her cheeks. Later, it would be revealed that Elise placed Lucy on probation, noting her visible discomfort during the ordeal. "You knew it was wrong," Elise had said. "That's a start. Learn from this, and you'll have a chance to do better." As the terminated employees were escorted out, their personal items stuffed into cardboard boxes, the lobby's atmosphere shifted. This wasn't just a firing, it was a declaration. Elise stood at the center of the branch, surrounded by Marcus, Victoria, and Robert, a living symbol of the change she demanded. The transformation was stark, from being denied service to wielding ultimate authority in 7 minutes. The message was clear. Discrimination had no home at Pinnacle Trust, and those who perpetuated it had no future. The remaining staff, shell-shocked, gathered as Elise addressed them, her voice not angry, but resolute. "What happened today isn't just about 3 people making bad choices," she began, her words carrying through the silent lobby. "It's about a culture that let those choices feel normal. That culture ends now." The staff listened, some unable to meet her gaze, others nodding in shame. Pinnacle Trust exists to serve every customer with dignity, respect, and fairness, Elise continued. These aren't just words on a poster. They're the standard for every interaction, starting today. Behind her, Marcus was already on his tablet, initiating emergency protocols, transferring management authority, securing access credentials, and appointing interim leadership. Every branch, every department, every role will be judged not just on profits, but on equitable service, Elise declared. "We're rewriting the metrics to reflect the bank we must become." She turned to Lucy, still trembling at the edge of the group. "Lucy," Elise said, her voice firm but kind. "Effective immediately, your interim branch manager." 3 days later, Elise stood at a podium emblazoned with Pinnacle Trust's logo, facing a sea of journalists, cameras flashing. The press conference, hastily arranged but meticulously planned, was a bold move. Flanked by Victoria, Robert, and a diverse group of former customers, Elise announced the bank's future. "Today, Pinnacle Trust launches our $50 million equitable banking initiative," she said, her voice steady and commanding. In the months that followed, Pinnacle Trust transformed. Branch managers' bonuses were tied to equity metrics, not just profits. Anonymous customer surveys, broken down by demographics, exposed disparities. Training programs, designed with civil rights groups and regulators, became mandatory. Every branch displayed a new sign. All customers deserve respect, dignity, and fair service. If your experience falls short, call this number. Below was Elise's direct office line, a bold promise of accessibility. 6 months later, Elise resumed her undercover visits, this time in casual clothes not to expose but to witness progress. At one branch, she saw a young black couple greeted warmly, their loan application processed with efficiency. At another, a Hispanic family opened accounts without extra scrutiny. The culture was shifting, not perfectly but measurably. Elise Carter's story isn't just about one day or one firing. It's about a leader who saw a broken system and rebuilt it. From a teller to a titan, she proved that power isn't just in titles, but in action. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to see it. Drop justice in the comments to join the conversation. Let's keep pushing for fairness, one story at a time.